So you all know our Pop-Tart now, and it's Seth David. If you don't know Seth. And we actually have a pretty cool story about how Sarah and I met. But you tell everybody who you are. Even probably knows you, but
I missed you. What'd you say, Linda? I'm sorry.
Yeah, you cut out for a second.
Cut out.
I am not at my normal internet. I said, Seth, why don't you introduce yourself and say hello?
Oh, me? I thought Sarah was going to introduce herself.
Oh, I was going to introduce.
I'm much more interested in Sarah than me.
I love him. I'm more interested in him than me.
I'm Seth David, and I love strawberry Pop-Tarts. That's where that came from. I had made a remark about it, and I guess they remembered. So that was where the Pop-Tart reference came from. And it's funny because I had weaned myself off of Pop-Tarts for a while because I've been working out and trying not to eat stuff like that. But just yesterday, much to my wife's dismay, I ordered a box of strawberry Pop-Tarts from Ralph's, our local supermarket, and she unpacked the groceries and she had them out on the counter. And when I saw them out on the counter and they weren't put away, I knew I was in trouble. And she threatened to throw them out. And I said, no. And so I put them way up high on a shelf that I don't think she can reach.
Sounds like something my husband would do.
And I pushed them all the way back, like as far as they can go.
Mean.
But then I was good because last night I opened up a package and I just had one. I didn't have both of them. I was able to discipline myself.
Wow, that's huge.
Because I'm motivated by the workouts so that I want to treat, but I don't want to destroy myself in the process.
Yeah.
We went out with a couple that they shared a cookie, and I'm like, who are these people? Who eats a cookie and share the cookie with their husband or their wife? I'm like, these are
just a little cookie.
One small cookie. They go, oh, for dessert, we'll have a cookie and we'll share it. I'm like, share a cookie? I've never heard of a person share a cookie, but they did.
That's funny.
I can't do that.
That's really. When I was in elementary school, there was this nerdy kid named Jeff Dorfman, who we would make one of the many things we'd make fun of him about. When he would eat his sandwich at lunch, he would hold the whole sandwich in one hand, but when he would eat his cookies, he held them in two. It's like he had it backwards, right? The cookie would be in two hands. And anyway, I'm sure you all wanted to join here today to learn about Pop-Tarts and cookies, and how much more interesting than anything about accounting or law, for sure, law. But anyway, that's who I am in a nutshell. I'm Seth, and I like to talk about random things like strawberry Pop-Tarts. And by the way, the s'mores Pop-Tarts are also really good.
Oh.
Those are like among my favorite, right? Like just a hair below the strawberry. And then and by the way, because I learned from my trainer that I'm working with that if you do eat a lot of carbs, you want to mix it with protein to balance it out and slow things down. So I had a spoonful of peanut butter after the strawberry Pop-Tart last night because that's high in protein.
That's a good idea.
Does it negate the Pop-Tart?
Well, I don't know if it negates it, but my understanding is that when you eat protein together with carbs, the way it was explained to me is it's like the carbs are like fire and the protein's like wood, and it burns slower when you have wood. In other words, it slows down the rate at which your body converts those carbs to glucose. So it keeps your sugar levels more even when you mix protein and carbs. In other words, you can have the sweets, but mix them together with some kind of a protein so that you don't get all the downside of eating garbage. So you can eat some garbage in moderation, just mix it with protein, be sensible about it. That's what I've learned from my trainer, and also because I was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes a number of years back, and I went to some nutrition classes at Kaiser. They didn't recommend eating Pop-Tarts, for the record, but they did suggest that when you have carbs, you want to have it together with a protein of some sort. So
well, I learned something. See?
Yeah, but my mom did the same nutrition for diabetes as well. Seth, she did at Kaiser. Yeah, same thing. She took the nutrition class, and I learned a lot through her. I was like, I thought I knew but that's a great class. But
It's fascinating because now that I'm working with the trainer, there's really a whole science around this. Like what he's got me doing now
yeah,
is actually eating a very high calorie diet, but very high protein and very high fiber. So that when I do my workouts, the protein helps regrow. And
Yeah.
even the fat that I'm taking in is the high octane fuel that my body's burning to help regrow the muscle tissue after the workouts. And I can see the increase in strength. I mean, I'm lifting a lot more weights now than I was in January when I first started. So the science behind it is amazing. And being a nerd, truly, that's what I love about this, is understanding the science behind it all. Because then he explained that the other thing that's happening in the background is I'm building up my body's metabolism so that in another month or two, when we do a cut, is what he calls it, where we're going to cut back on the calories and we're going to cut back on the carbs big time. And he said, basically at that point, it's like the extra fat and weight just melts off of you because you've got the increased metabolism now and you're still lifting weights, which causes your body to burn fat all day long. Instead of just like when you do cardio, you're just burning fat in those moments that you're doing the cardio. But when you're lifting weights, your body's working the rest of the day to regrow that muscle tissue. And so you're burning fat to do that all day long, even as you're sitting. So
oh,
anyway, fascinating. Anybody want to talk about this instead of law? I'm game.
a lot of happy people here. I love it.
Joanne says to throw the Pop-Tarts away. No, I need a treat once in a while. And actually, joking aside about that, he made the point to me. He's like, you don't want to make this, an unpleasant experience. You do want to give yourself those treats, but obviously everything in moderation, right?
Yeah, you have to limit things. Don't you think that makes you want it more? If you
Yeah,
say,
that's especially so here, another one of my many blessings is being an addict in recovery, right? So yes, I can, I've always got that fear of kicking off an obsession, right? And so like one is too many and 1,000 is never enough. But I learned something interesting because I'm reading a book that talks about like learning and how to develop a deep understanding about what you're trying to learn about. And it talks about the fact that one of the mistakes we make when it comes to a lot of things, even the work that we do, is we look for outside ways of rewarding ourselves for something we do well, when in reality, the reward has to come from doing the thing itself, right? So like when one of the reasons I'm sitting where I'm sitting today in the accounting world is because I started making videos and I loved it. I loved doing it. It wasn't like I had to reward myself for work by doing something external. The reward was the work itself. I love doing it so much, right? And the same thing now with the workout. So that's why I was honestly able to discipline myself last night and just have one Pop-Tart, because I was like, I had a great workout this morning. I know I want to have another great workout tomorrow, and I want that treat. I want to be able to enjoy life, but I don't want to ruin the good that I'm doing. So the balance comes in, and I have to be careful. Like, once I get through this box of Pop-Tarts, I probably won't buy another one for a long time. It's got to be in moderation. It's got to be a rare treat. But the key is the Pop-Tart wasn't the reward for my workout. The workout was its own reward. I love doing it. I love the results. I love the way it feels. I love, yesterday I got in there. I've been building my own home gym in my detached garage, which used to be my office 100 years ago. And I had 205 pounds on the rack and I was squatting 205 pounds. When I started, I couldn't quite do 155,
wow.
Yeah.
You're counting them too. Cause every time I see you, I post that you're like, finish my workout. I'm like, oh God, I should do my workout. And then you're at 91. I'm like, holy crap, he's counting his workout.
I track them in Airtable. So they're numbered, right?
I love that.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, and because I wanted to come up with a system. I hate the trainer system. I love the trainer. I hate his system. He drops the workouts in a Google Doc. And I'm like, this is data. You can't track data in a Google Doc. So I take what he gives me in the Google Doc and I put it into Airtable. And so for every workout, there's the workout number, there's the exercise number, and the set number. And what's cool about that is then when I go to work out later today, for example, and he gives me an exercise that I've done before, I've got my tablet, in the gym with me, and I can tap on that exercise and quickly see the history. And I usually just go to the last time I did the exercise to see how much weight did I do. And I try to start with something a little higher this time, each time that I do it.
Nice.
So again, it's the science behind it.
Yeah. That's awesome. Well, It's kind of like the balance part of life, right? You have to balance the.
Joanne's really pushing me away from the Pop-Tarts. She's telling me that she's going to make me
I
a
know.
strawberry dessert with no sugar that would make, okay, I'm game on.
Oh man.
So you
Yeah.
don't really notice that Sarah's with Nicole, that they're in the same screen this time. They're together. It's kind of fun. But we were going to talk about business relationships, and one of the things Sarah and I wanted to share is how because we alluded to it a little bit on our Law Wednesday, how we met and how we collaborated together. And Joanne had a great idea that we'll get into a little bit too. But Sarah and I actually met in Seth's mastermind group, the 97 and up, which, I joined. I'll have to say, I was a fangirl of Seth's for a very long time, silently in the background. Never, ever, ever, I just followed him and worshiped him basically. And I remember the first QuickBooks Connect that we went to, Matthew had met you and I hadn't. And he's like, you're not going to do a Mariette. And I said, what did Mariette do? And then Mariette came over and of course showed me how she went and chased you down the street.
She scared me. I was walking back over to the Fairmont and all of a sudden I hear somebody screaming like a maniac.
Mariette.
And I turn around and it was like she was sitting at the outside of McCormick and Schmick's across the way from the. So it took me a second because I'd never met her in person before that moment. And at first in my mind, my first instinct was run. There's some crazy lady, but then I realized it was Mariette, and I was like, okay, I know her. All right.
He's so cute. He's so sweet. So Sarah and I are both in the group, and of course the group's big sized, right? So you go on just like this, you come on, and sometimes you have to work, and you're here, you're on, you're not on, or whatever. And I had a client. This is pre doing Just Law. I had a client who was going to sue me. So I'd been doing this for 20 years, and this one person, I had done work, and this is a good story to tell because I'd done work with this client. And the manager he was a contractor, and the manager of the person, this company hired me, and we did the scope of work. I think she even signed the contract, and we did this cleanup job, and he was never involved. She ran the show. She was the one in charge. And then when it came time to pay me, they paid me some. This was before I used to get paid ahead. And then the guy he got involved, and all of a sudden he's going to sue me, and how dare you move my records, and I never hired you. And it became this nightmare, which happened right before Seth's Tuesday, Thursday, and I don't know which one it was, where I don't even know what the topic was, but I think I wrote to you, Seth, and you're like, this is the topic of the week, because it was I was just shaken to the core on this. And I didn't know that Sarah, I didn't really know her that well, other than she popped in on the show. And you want to take it from there?
Oh yeah. So her post comes up, and I said, oh my gosh, as a like kind of like in our community, as a member of a team, a group, you want to help somebody out. And genuinely, I was concerned. And she said, no, I have raccoon eyes. I can't get on a Zoom with you. And I was like, oh, because she'd been crying. Well, she ends up pinging me. We jump on and we kind of talk it through. And I've had the fortunate luck of having Seth just even as my friend prior to this. So he has helped me personally he's reached out to me personally. So I had the fortunate wisdom a little bit. And so I kind of was like, okay, let's take it back a notch, and walked it through and talked about it and realized her engagement. And thankfully it was a false threat. Her approach was a good one. I mean, it is a scary thing. It shakes you to the core. But it definitely makes you want to have a better engagement letter, makes you want to make sure you're asking the right questions, right? And it makes you want to make sure that you're engaging with the right people. So Linda was adamant this last go around, we have a new client that hired us, and she's like, no, that owner needs to sign the agreement. We are not, you can be on it, but the owner has to be on the agreement.
I'm like, no, I'll put your name on it too, but I need his name on it because of that, what happened, right? So that story is so to help you guys to know, because sometimes it's so easy. You're in a big hurry and you kind of have to link something together. And in this respect, it became a big thing. Sarah gave me great advice. So she said, save the file, save the folder, save every piece of information, scan everything, and, make sure you have everything in place. So if he does sue you, save it. And he's probably going to go away, but have everything. And I think even like Greg reached out to me and helped me write the letter. back to him. And yeah, it was a collaborative effort, and they all jumped in on him. Whatever the topic was, everybody jumped in on like a meeting like this, and everybody gave me advice. It was wonderful, and that's what's so great and powerful about these groups. And Seth didn't even know it's where we kind of first collaborated, and then after that, Sarah got an opportunity for a law firm, and it was like in March, I think, or February, right, when the person came, and it was this gigantic firm. And they're like, Sarah, you want to do this? And I guess I had just started maybe doing the law firm work, or maybe you just knew that I did it. And she reached out to me and said, I can't do this one by myself. Do you want to do it together? And I'd never, up to that point, always by myself, always had my firm by myself. I had my own little gig going on. And she reached out to me and said, do you want to do it? I said, that sounds kind of interesting. I think I do. And then we started working on it. And then we like, that was fun. Let's do it again, kind of thing.
And now you have me.
And now I have you. I know. We're so fortunate. Now I get this extra extended family because I got the mamas and I got Nicole, and it just keeps growing. That's been really.
Although, I mean, it definitely, a lot of this, if you're part of the 97 group, you're going to learn that you never get rid of anything. You archive it. That's number one. Seth has always taught me that. Even your emails to somebody to archive.
I was deleting emails and she's like,
yeah. And then the other thing was, I think Seth is the one that told me this. He's like, man, you're a collaborator. And I didn't catch myself in my own, at that time, I didn't realize I like to connect like people. I like to, I don't know, something about that. I like that. I don't, something that like-mindedness I enjoy. But anyways. That's
why when I saw Joanne had her idea, would you be okay with this? And I'm going to make a topic for that. But now Joanne and now Rosanna reached out to Joanne and said, look, I'm not an expert in Clio, but I will certainly work with you and let you know what I know. And I love that. And I know I think Yolanda collaborated with someone too in the group, or somebody else had gotten together in the background to work together on a project, which is great because, that's the stuff that makes my job. I know myself, I look forward to, like, we pop on, we're on Zoom constantly. Like, we're on Zoom all the time. And even if we're working independently, we're still working on it's still our work for proper trust, but we work together and we're always together. Like, we're more together now than we used to do one day. And I think now it's like every day of the week. We have a couple of days where we kind of work on our own individual businesses, but yeah, or I'll do it in the morning because I'm on the East Coast, and Sarah will do it in the afternoon because I'm like, it's 6:30 my time, gotta go.
Yeah.
I think there's no better feeling than when you know that you've introduced two people and it's made their lives better for it, right? Whatever that looks like. There's just no better feeling than doing that, whether it's just something informal like, hey, you two should meet one another. I think you'd get along well, or, or more in a business context when I refer somebody to someone else and that someone else comes back to me eventually and says, thank you so much for referring so-and-so, they've done an amazing job. Like, it's just, to me, there's no better payment than knowing that you truly helped improve somebody's life simply because you introduced two people that you knew needed to know one another. And that's where I think a lot of people get a lot of satisfaction from networking.
And do you feel like, Seth, like networking, I mean, there's been bumps in the road. Obviously, you have some moments, right, that don't work out or things happen, but do you feel like just being open-minded to I don't know how to describe it, but just feeling like if you have something to offer, great. If you don't, it's okay too. Like, just being a part of the network, being a part of the community adds value as well. Like, yeah.
I mean, I personally, and this isn't going to be for everybody, but I love building communities. That's why I just recently started, with Mighty Networks and creating. I was sitting there, I was like, and this is always a consideration. And sorry, we have a visitor apparently. Come here, you.
Yay!
Come here, you. Artemis. She's like, I don't care if you're in a call. I want your attention, and I want it now.
I love her hair.
I just love them.
Yeah.
Sorry, Boo Boo. That's her nickname is Boo Boo. Boo Boo Bear. Anyway, that's the other. So going back to introductions, I'm a big dog lover. I had 3 dogs before the 2 we have now. I was heartbroken. We lost them all within a year, and now we've got these 2. Artemis and Aphrodite, we call them the mighty goddesses, and they have their own Instagram channel you can follow them on. So, and I post videos because they love to wrestle together, and it's hilarious because they look like they're doing it really rough, but they never hurt each other. Like the 1 or 2 times one of them felt pain apparently and sort of winced, they immediately stopped because that's not their intention. Anyway, back to networking. I love building communities. I get a lot of satisfaction out of bringing people together. It's funny because years ago, I very much had Doug Sleater as my mentor. And he used to encourage me because I used to love to do one-on-one training with people, because I really feel like because you can go much deeper with people on a one-on-one basis. You can obviously get more into the details that people wouldn't be comfortable sharing on a group level. And I always felt like I can give people much more help that way. But Doug's response to that was, yeah, but you can help a lot more people if you do it on a group level. You may not be able to help them as deeply, but you can reach more. So where's the balance between the two? Right. And so I said, well, I'm going to do both until, guess what? Come 2021, I have no time for one-on-ones anymore. But that doesn't mean I can't offer them. I have a bookkeeper who's worked with me for years. She's amazing. And I tested the waters out as we do and had her do some one-on-ones with clients, and they love her. Perfect. So now she does the one-on-ones. I can charge a fraction of what I would charge if they wanted to do a one-on-one with me, because that's the other thing that happened is over the years, I got so busy, basic supply and demand, laws of economics, I had to raise my rates, and so it got to the point now where I'm like, talk about lawyers, I'm charging $500 an hour if somebody wants a one-on-one with me, and I'm not a lawyer. So, and it's crazy how, as I've increased rates over the years, it almost like it attracts more people, that want to pay. They want to pay. But it's fascinating how that happens. And then at the same time, and some of you may have experienced this. I don't know if a lot of you have been doing this a long time or not. I mean, I know some of you, but what we all seem to find out as time goes on and as we raise our rates is that the increased rates attract a different caliber of client. Right? It frankly attracts people who respect what you're doing and the value of what you're doing a lot more. And so that has its own tangent benefits in terms of raising rates. But, so going back to the community thing, that was the other way that I was able to balance this out. And because from day one, I remember when I started doing whatever it was I was doing, I feel like I've made it up as I've gone along. But I said, I never want to be somebody who is sort of unreachable or inaccessible in some way, shape, or form. In other words, I never want it to be a situation where somebody can't benefit from what I can do for them because they can't afford it. And so I, first and foremost, free videos on YouTube as much as I can. In the beginning, a lot more than I have time to do now, but it's still there and I still do them. And I'm actually trying to carve out more time in my schedule to do more of that. But then the community thing comes in. And 97 Up started almost by accident, because I was talking about having relationships in business that don't always go well. I was out on my own, kind of starting over. And I was like, I don't know. I remember sitting here at my desk thinking about it and going, there's been like a lot of books written by people in our industry over the years. And like there's certain books that come to mind even still now, all these years later, is like this was the book that you got if you were starting out as a QuickBooks Pro advisor. One of them was Michelle Long's Successful QuickBooks Consultants, right? And that was like the quintessential resource for a long time. But, even by this time, that book had been written many, many years ago already. And while the fundamentals of accounting haven't changed, the software certainly has. And I said, I want to create like the quintessential resource of today for people, for accountants and bookkeepers I want people like talking about something that I've created the way they talk about Michelle Long's book, right? And I sat down and started thinking about how I would want to do something like that. And I thought, well, it's got to be a dynamic platform. It takes too long to get a book published. It takes too long to get revisions or, editions of a book published. I don't want to do that. I want something much more nimble, something where there's a new version of QuickBooks Online, boom, I can jump in, record a new video and stick it in the resource, whatever that looks like. And then at the same time, I'm thinking about this and going, I had just come off of an experience with dealing with all the headaches that come with running a subscription kind of plugin, right? And when it breaks and people can't get access and people don't, even in 2021 now, I still find some people don't know how to use the forgot password link when they're trying to, you'd be surprised how many emails I get now from people. Like, I can't log in, and I'll write back and say, did you hit forgot password? No. Okay, let's try that. Right. Anyway, so I'm like, I don't want to deal with the headaches of that, because I'm a one-man show once again, and I don't have the bandwidth to manage something like that. So I was already aware of some of the resources, one of which was called Patreon, right? Kind of like a benefactor, Patreon, and it's made for creative people, essentially, who want to put free content out there on places like YouTube, but they also want people to have the opportunity to thank them by way of paying for something. And so they had this whole structure where you would set a level, and at that level there would be certain rewards, right? And so I set up, all right, so $5 a month is if you just want to thank me for my free YouTube videos, so there's no real reward other than this, for $5 a month, that's how you can just say thank you, right? Then at $25 a month, there would be certain like content that I would make exclusive to people at that level. And then there was a little bit more offered at $50 a month. And then we had $97 a month. And so at each level, it was like, $5 and up, you get this. And then at $25 and up, you get all the stuff that you got at $5 plus the $25 and up benefits. And then it was $50 and up, and then it was $97 and up. And that's where that came from. And that became, because what happened is, unexpectedly or without planning it specifically, it grew, and it grew into a community. And eventually I got to the point where I was like, okay, now I do need to grow up and be a big boy and actually build it out on my own subscription-based platform, and deal with the headaches that come with that, because it was becoming too much work to manage it in Patreon. But Patreon was a great stepping stone.
Was Sarah one of your first people?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember when I was coming out of a bad experience as well, and I got my first, I told them, I said, the moment I get this, I wouldn't do anything. I was like, I want to pay him back for all of his love and gift for me and all the things that he's given me. And so I was like, the moment I got paid, I literally like signed up that day. I got paid today, so here we go. So I signed up that day, and I tell you guys, like, the community that still till this day, I love connecting with those same people. I love re-engaging. I actually, one of the people through the group that I just met with her this morning, she's living in Croatia, but she was based in Santa Monica, Helena, and we're still connected. And it's just we just share ideas, commiserate together, help each other, support each other. I mean, she's on a different time zone, so she doesn't get to participate the same, but it's also been a referral based sometimes. Like, you get the client that doesn't work for you, but you've got somebody that I'm always careful about referring, because I don't want to give you the bad one. So the ones that I don't like, really just like, I'm sorry, I don't know anybody right now. So I'll see you later. Yeah. But yeah, Valerie, I'm sure you get like, so, but there's a core of us that were, it started like 4 or 5 of us, and we kind of helped to develop topics, and he was building on topics and like throwing out ideas, and we were sort of spinning off of each other, and they were real life moments that were happening to us too. Kind of like what we do on Open Forum, but then it started giving more content to Seth, and before you know it, I was like, oh my God, we're doing way more. New platform, everything. So it was awesome. Yep. Yeah. So
but I find it very rewarding.
Everybody's seen Seth's YouTube channel. I mean, he has, I always look at his content, and every time I make mine, I'm like, God, I wish I could be like Seth, because mine isn't as, yours has always been so good. And has everybody watched the Seth David YouTube video? I don't know. Has everybody?
Oh yeah. I think the payroll one was the one way back on the desktop, way back.
Mm-hmm.
That was the one that was my like, oh my God, it finally clicked with me on how to enter payroll. And then before you know it, now I'm in payroll hell all the time. So
to this day, that is one of my most watched videos.
Is it really?
People reach out to me still now. Yeah, it's the second highest. My most watched video is called Bookkeeping Basics 1. It's had 542,000 views. The second one, the runner-up after that, is How to Enter Payroll into QuickBooks Detail, 363,000 views from 9 years ago.
Yep.
And I have people reach out to me and say that they have that video bookmarked, and every time they're booking payroll, they click the link and watch that video to make sure that they're following the process the right way. And I did too. I did the summary method and the detail method. The detail method is, of course, where you record each individual paycheck, but you have to do it in a clearing account because there's direct deposits, so it doesn't line up with the banking. And the summary method is just booking the summary totals, the total payroll expense and the liabilities and so on. And evidently, a lot of people like the detail method better because it gives you more data to work with. And I make that point in the videos that I like it better because I like data. I like to be able to analyze. I want to be able to analyze that data and use it to make important decisions for my clients. So
Really 9 years ago? Because I mean, like, I remember when you published that thing and I was like, oh my God, I'm watching this nerd guy. I'm going to watch him.
that video was published 9 years ago. Yeah.
Wow.
Yep. I started uploading videos to YouTube in 2008.
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
That's how long I've known him.
Mhm.
Been following him.
That's when I started doing it. I had hired this internet marketing consultant, and I had been producing the videos and putting them, just a link up to my website, that link to where the videos were hosted on it was a product called Adobe Connect that I was using to record them in those days. And they would give you a link where people could just watch it in their browser. The video quality was terrible, but it was what I had to work with. And I was just learning myself. And this internet consultant came and he's like, you got to get these on YouTube. And I remember saying to him, I was joking with him about it. I said, I thought YouTube was just for people shooting videos of them like burning Elmo dolls and thinking it was funny or something. And he was like, no, there's a really good business use case for YouTube. And now's the time because nobody's doing it yet. And so I did. I had to figure out how to get those videos that Adobe Connect was creating in a format that would be useful for YouTube. And then he said to me, forget Adobe Connect, get Camtasia. This is the first time I ever heard of Camtasia. And I'm like, what's Camtasia? And I felt dumb asking. I felt like I should know because I'm supposed to be the video guy, not him. He's the internet marketing guy. But anyway, at first I was like, oh, I don't need Camtasia. I was too proud. My ego stepped in. And then I got humble and checked out Camtasia. And I was like, you know what? He's right. This makes a lot more sense because I can actually pre-record the video and I can edit the video like those Adobe Connect ones. It was just press record, shoot it, and fly. There was no editing, And so I did. I started using Camtasia, and that was 2008 when I created my first video on YouTube.
And then you used to be in Google Meet, right? With your meetings?
When Google Plus first came out, and like initially you could only get in by invite. I remember Stephanie Travis is an accountant from Florida who sent me one of her beta invites, and I joined. And then shortly after that, they started rolling out Hangouts in beta. And once again, you could only get invited. Certain people could use it. And so she and I got together and started playing with it. And we kind of said, hey, we should just do something like this every Friday and just invite. And I said, let's invite accountants and business owners to join, because what a great resource that could be for the business owners to come in and ask questions, and they'd have this panel of accountants to answer them. Well, it turned out the business owners didn't seem that interested, but we had a bunch of accountants and bookkeepers joining us. We had one business owner, a really nice woman, Rhonda Bergen from Bergen Construction, and she came and she became part of the group. People didn't realize she wasn't actually a bookkeeper after a while.
Yeah.
And she was the only business owner that ever kind of stuck around with us, and she stuck around for a long time. And then, I don't know, over time, she just kind of, I guess, faded back to just running her business. Every once in a while, I'll see a post from her and her husband on Instagram for their construction company. So I'm like, okay, they're still around, And it's cool that way. It's cool when you've been at this for a long time that you get to see people grow and evolve, and you get to, that's the other great benefit, I think, of having and being involved in communities, even if they're just online, is you form relationships with people, and they're wonderful. Even if you never exchange a dollar between you, who cares? It's just wonderful to be a part of something where you get to see people grow. And to me, that's the best feeling ever, is to see people that I met years ago when they were just starting out and look at them now and be like, oh my God, look how they've grown,
Yeah. Oh
And
my God. Google Hangouts, we used to like compete who could get on, because you only could have like,
You can only have up to like 10 or 15 people in the beginning. That's right. That's
I
right.
remember I would drive to my office at the time where I was working, and my husband's like, oh my God, you've got that Friday thing. You're leaving early again. Because I was like, I want to get on. I got to push the button. It's like competing.
Hilarious.
Yeah, that's funny.
Yep.
But
And that became, so originally it was just accountants and bookkeepers, but then I wanted to accommodate Rhonda, who had joined us, who was an actual business owner. So it became accountants, bookkeepers, and business owners. I wanted them in the title so they would know they were welcome. and that became the Facebook group that eventually I lost. That's another story for another day. I don't want to jump into that today.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
but
Yeah.
yeah.
Story about, because I know that Google didn't have any like filters, so people could do kind of crazy things on a Google Meet.
Mhm.
And Gina that had the experience. There's Gina.
I was on for that one, unfortunately. That was
Showed
bad.
naked meeting. Like, oh, hello.
That was a bad one.
I bet.
Oh gosh. Yeah.
But truly, one of the things we were talking about this week is just business relationships. And one of the things I think too, going to a conference makes a difference, because you meet on Zoom, and I know I'm a little on the zoomed out phase. I don't know if everybody else is on the zoomed out phase, but meeting in person is so pivotal for business relationships, because now you've got a personal connection to that. And I remember when I met Seth, I did not scream and run after him.
Thank you.
Heart attack, right? But I was so excited to meet him, and then he had a dinner for the group, and we got to sit and talk, and we were sharing with Seth earlier, like I didn't know Sarah then that well. I knew her, but online, and of course, you couldn't miss her with her mamas, the two mamas. They were there. You can't miss the little twins. They're adorable, and they came to the dinner, and Sarah was on the other side of the table, sitting right across from me, and I ordered a glass of wine, and then she said, "Do you like red?" And then when the guy came around to get her order, she's like, "Let's get a bottle. If you could have, it'll be better for us to have the bottle." And we shared a bottle of wine the first time we actually met, which is kind of cool. And then the rest is history. But yeah, it was a long time ago, but it was really cool. And that's something that we did at, I think, QuickBooks Connect 2018, maybe 2018, I think.
Yeah, that would have been one of the first ones. There were a couple before that, but yeah.
I don't think there'll ever be another QuickBooks Connect. That's just my opinion. I don't know.
I have a feeling they're going to do it, just not this year because there's not enough time to plan it. I have a feeling they'll do one next year.
Ooh.
I was in a group call with some people from Intuit, and somebody brought up that, hey, we would love to have another QuickBooks Connect, and the response was, it wasn't committal, but it was, so would we, was kind of the response.
Oh, okay.
But I think they're just, they want to be smart and wait, and there's not enough time to plan it. I mean, it's huge. They would max it out at 5,000 people, which is literally the capacity for the convention center there. So they're not going to throw that together, starting now. They need a whole year to plan that.
Yeah.
But I think they'll do it. I think we'll see them do it next year. And it's funny. I joke with people that I feel like I'm back on a college campus during that week of QuickBooks Connect, just where the Fairmont, it's a little nicer than a college dorm when you're staying at the Fairmont or any of the hotels in that area. But it's like, that's what it feels like. It feels like being on campus and walking around and seeing all these people that for all these years. And some people, that you've never met in person before, but you've gotten to know them online, and now you get to meet them in person. There's something incredibly special about that. I've even honestly told people, like, I could practically care less about the actual content at these things. I'm just more interested in going and being around the people. To me, that's the number one benefit of all of it.
Yeah.
We have scaling coming up in October, and I know Hector's just going as an attendee. He's not teaching anything this year. Probably at the same place as you. Like, it's like, I just want to be.
I have no interest in scaling. I just don't.
Yeah, I know. I'll be speaking with Linda. We're doing a couple on law. Yeah, we got 2 sessions on law, and I did the one that you were at, Seth. I did the Utah one, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then
that was the only one I've ever gone to. First and last.
Then I flew to San Diego and did ZeroCon.
Yeah, I know
that's fun.
That's true, because you did like a fast turnaround. I mean, barely got to see you, and you're off.
Yeah, it was fun. It was a good
time together and get together, because we actually wanted to find ways to get together in person a little bit more, because we're totally on different coasts. But it's hard, especially last year. Forget it. Last year was just
Well, I think about business relationships too. Like with Jane, I think you're the one that was talking about you doing sponsorships, right? Like sponsoring, getting into the community, because it's hard right now to get involved in your community locally. But I feel like sometimes you'd be surprised at the connections globally that you have that bring you back to the community. And
there's actually, I had sponsored a golf tournament. The Baltimore County Bar Association had a golf tournament, and it wasn't very expensive, and I sponsored a tee, and I got to be there and talk to 100 attorneys that came through that day.
Yeah.
And there's a networking group that's for lawyers and doctors to network together. But I know the woman that is promoting and running this networking. So she invited me to go. She said, there won't be any accountants there. So you should definitely come. It's going to be about 200 people and about half of them will be attorneys. So I said, okay, we'll be there. So, I mean, it's an $80 ticket, but I actually just bought it today. So that happens in it happens in August. So I think you definitely need to look for those opportunities that are in your community. I mean, it's, if you're trying to appeal to people across the country, that's different, but that you don't overlook what's right there that is still driving distance. So
the other thing to consider that I don't think we talk about enough in our accounting communities is that if you have a niche that you want to specialize in, and I think, Jane, this is kind of what you're getting at, you should go to the conferences for those industries, right? If you want to serve real estate brokers, then you should start getting involved in the National Association of Realtors and go to their events and just go network with realtors. That's where your clients are, right? It's great to network with our own, but we're not going to generate a lot of referral business out of that. We'll get some because, like Sarah said earlier, I might have somebody that I don't want to work with because it's just not my specialty, right? I don't want to work with nonprofits, but I know who works with nonprofits in my community, so I can immediately make those referrals, and I frequently do. I get a lot of inquiries from people. Do you do nonprofits? And I'm like, no, but I know somebody who does, and I know that you're in good hands. So let me introduce you, right?
also the bar associations, the local ones, like we have one in every single county in Maryland. A lot of them have newsletters, and you can advertise, and you don't have to commit to like every single month. You could do every second or third month and change up your ads, and it's not very expensive. And the bar associations, they're paying money to be in that association, so they're trying to also give them benefits. So I've also been approached to they do like lunch and learns through all their different committees they have. And the best one at my the bar that I associate with is the young lawyers. They have a young lawyers committee. So it's all of these people that have just passed the bar. They're just getting started. Some of them work for large firms, but a lot of them are starting their own firms. And they've had me come in and give them bookkeeping seminars for like a lunchtime, because they're trying to always mix it up. So make yourself available, find out information about your local bars. I think it's a really good way to go.
That's one thing I do in our community, is with our association. It's the same thing. I've done a few lunch and learns that way, and just staying connected in the community, finding out that I'm on a listserv from time to time that I didn't know about. I was like, what's that? You know what I mean? So I appreciate that is, and I think like Seth, you were teaching for a while at the local community college too, right?
Yeah, it stopped when COVID started, but I have my biggest client I've ever had now that came by way of a referral from somebody who took my Excel class at Santa Monica College, joined 97 and up. She got this client for bookkeeping, and then they grew to the point where she was honest and humble enough to admit, hey, I'm in over my head here. And she introduced them to me, and I took it over. And in exchange for this referral, because it's, like I said, it's the best referral I've ever gotten, she's got lifetime membership in 97 and up, and she's never going to pay a dime for it. That's kind of what I said. I said, and that's just the start of it. Like, I'm going to send her a nice little referral fee, as a way of saying thank you for the referral. Because this is long story short, this is a client who's probably going to go public within the next year or two. And they've hired me to do the bookkeeping and to do the CFO work. And so I'm literally cutting through their equity accounts and all the investments. And I had to cut through all these different valuation adjustments to get at what were the true cash. Like, it's a lot of work that I'm doing, but I'm getting paid very well. And it's stuff I really love to do. And anyway, so yeah, it's generated other kinds of business too. So if you have an opportunity to teach accounting or something along those lines at a local college, that work in itself won't pay that great, but it's the other benefits that will pay in spades, because you get that exposure. And this is not teaching their students, it's teaching their community ed program, where it's adults who are coming who need the extra help because they needed to learn Excel to get that raise or that promotion that they needed or whatever.
It's amazing.
One more is that there's also, we have one county has a really active, it's the Harford County Office of Community Development. And so they do tons of stuff for small businesses and try to get businesses opened in that county. And they also offer every summer free classes. And I've taught a bookkeeping class for business owners for like, this will be my 4th summer doing that. And so that's always been a really great way. Now that's not just attorneys,
Yeah.
but there's all kinds of things that are out like that out there.
That's awesome. I mean, sometimes you don't, maybe those of you sitting here now, like you're like, oh, that doesn't sound like me. But the opportunity, I'm constantly feeling like I'm getting reminded about, well, I know this information, I have to share it because other people's experience. And I think, Julie, you paid me one of the sweetest compliments too, is like bottling up my confidence and realizing that confidence that I have, I didn't realize, because where I started and where I am today are definitely, it's been a journey. But I did surround myself in the community with these people, and like what Jane's saying, like just getting out there in front of people. I love that because you're sharing what I guess you take for granted of just knowledge of knowing. You're sharing it in a different way that might actually click for someone in such a beautiful benefit. I mean, Linda, I see it with you all the time.
I've changed quite a bit. I mean, I had my little bookkeeping business that was just desktop, and I lived in this little box that I had enough work. I used to work about 60 hours a week, and I had just enough to get me through. And then my daughter came on board, and I gave her some, and all that made me have the chance to get more. She wanted to work in QuickBooks Online, and then I flipped over to that, and it just started to build off of that. And yeah, I mean, from that place that I lived in a really long time to where I am now, it's completely like black and white, night and day. It couldn't be more different. But it's just funny because you just don't think about it. People see you and they see whatever their perception is of you, but it's a lot about growing and growth. And I think that's why we've joined these groups and why we were in some of these places that we're able to grow. Because now you've got this connection to us. If any of you do come to scaling, we're going to try to get something together that we can all get together and meet together, which will be fun. If you don't, that's fine too. We'll maybe get on Zoom as well. But yeah, I mean, it's totally an experience that you will grow from. And the more you learn here, because we go so deep into the law stuff and go into so many complex scenarios that we've experienced or all of you have experienced, that helps us get past. And that's why we remind you all the time, like, you have to realize that you're not the standard bookkeeper that just comes across. You're not the QB Live bookkeeper that just has these, I do bank rules and I do startups and you have that extra level of knowledge that you should charge for, because you are you're at a higher level because of the time, and you put the time in to do this. You're putting the money in to do this. You should be able to charge more for that, and not be embarrassed about that either. I mean, part of that happens where you do feel a little bit like, oh, I don't know if I don't have any problem anymore telling people what I charge for a rate. I don't have a problem because I've done a lot of things to get to that point, and you're doing it too. And I think that that's part of confidence, and you got us to fall back on. If you have any, if you have a bad experience, Sarah's like the master at handling people. For sure. She is. She's got the most good, crazy people skills. Exactly.
Joanne had a really nice moment with us, and I was just so grateful to be able to hear her tell us, like, feels confident in taking this part of the niche in her new business, in the business world for herself in this like new market, because she can actually feel confident about doing it, and she has us to fall back on, this whole community of people here.
And actually, Seth, when I tried to figure out what niche I was going to, you might not remember this either because you deal with so many people. It was you that told me. I'm like, I don't know what to pick. I don't know what to pick. And you were like, well, you don't have to pick one. You can pick three and then figure it out. It'll all fall into place eventually. And it's exactly what I did. I picked three.
Yep.
Seth did. Okay. I was like, but I didn't say that.
One, pick three. And then I think you even said to me, like, what's the worst thing that could happen if you pick the one and it didn't work out? You just go back and start over again. And it was
Pick another one. Yeah. It's one of the lessons in the 97 and Up course. It's called literally choose up to three. And it talks about picking your niche and trying to figure that out. And by the way, can I share like sort of a networking power tip here?
Yes.
So since everybody here is obviously looking to serve the legal industry, right? And this is a tip I learned from John Ferrara, who's the CEO of Nimble CRM.
Mm-hmm.
And, so we've been talking a lot about networking and building communities and, how referrals will come as a byproduct of that. But John shares a very powerful and specific way of networking where you're not necessarily looking for the end user of your services. What you want to do, talking about networking and connecting, is go out there and form connections with the influencers in the industries that you want to serve. And of course, he loves teaching that because Nimble CRM is a perfect product to help facilitate that process. So Nimble is the tool you're going to use. But let me show you something while you're talking, because I got curious, and sure enough, I Googled it. And in less than 10 seconds, I found this, okay? 10 must follow social influencers for today's legal industry. Okay, and you're going to go through. Have any of you ever heard of this guy? I haven't, but I don't really follow the legal industry, right? But look, what I can do is I can take a guy like this. Let me click on the link to his name. Look at this. It takes me over to his Twitter. Okay. So now watch what I can do. I didn't know this. I literally just did this on the fly. Here's my Nimble little extension in Chrome. Okay. There he is. I'm going to click his name. I'm going to add him as a contact. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to tag him and call him legal influencer. Okay, and create that tag, because now in Nimble I can do all kinds of searches and filtering. And so as I build that portfolio of influencers in the legal industry, of course I'm going to give them a follow on Twitter if you happen to be on Twitter, right? If you're not, get on Twitter. It's still my favorite social network, much better than Facebook, right? Let me back up though, because the other thing I can do is with Nimble, as I hover my mouse even over somebody's name, this Nimble tool on my right, it's going to work. It's going to search for information about him online, right? It didn't find anything in this case. But again, now I can click on Andrew, and this takes me to Andrew's website. Let's see if it can find more information that way. It looks like it found his company and it found him. So that's fine. Let me click on him. And it looks like that looks like him, right? But let's click on it to go over to LinkedIn just to be sure. Yep, that's him. Notice what these guys do. They make themselves, it's very easy to recognize them. They use the same images across platforms. This is something you should be thinking about if you haven't already, right? So now I can check this off and say, yeah, that's him. And that's definitely, it showed me a Twitter account. Yep, that's definitely him. It already pulled him in. Once I confirmed his profile on LinkedIn, Nimble knew the other one was also him. So Nimble starts building a little dossier on these people. So how are you going to make use of this? Well, now if I go and I have to do it again because I clicked away. So let's add him in, and then we're going to actually click add contact. And then I'll click on his name to go into Nimble to his contact profile. And what I want to do, and it's not going to happen overnight, but I want to follow him. I want to start retweeting his stuff on Twitter. I want to start engaging with him so that he starts to see my name a lot. Every time I retweet something he's got on Twitter, he's going to see my name. And I can tell you from being on the other end of this, Mariette was famous for this. All of a sudden one day, this woman, Mariette, is like resharing everything I ever share. It's like, but it was effective because I knew who she was, right? That's how a lot of this works. So now what happens is if I'm interacting with these people who are considered influencers in the legal industry, and please tell me there are some women in here. There, thank you.
Look at my name.
What? Yeah, where's your name? That's right. Okay, good. We've got a bunch of women in here. So you'll want to start following and trying to interact with them. And this isn't something you do willy-nilly. This is something structured. You plan time in your calendar for this sort of thing. Because here's what happens. If you start interacting with these people in the legal profession who are influencers, they're considered influencers in the legal profession. And let's say they start interacting with you directly. They start replying to you on Twitter, or better still, they see that you've shared a really good post on accounting for the legal profession, and they're not accountants, and they want really good content for their followers. Well, now they start sharing your content, and all of a sudden you get seen as one among them, but you're the accountant in the mix. So guess who they're going to come to when they start having questions about accounting, and they see that Nicole Black, who's an influencer in the legal profession, keeps sharing your stuff, right? And they're hungry for that. I can tell you I'm hungry for good content from other people. I've been begging Sarah and Linda for months to work with me to put together a course for accounting for the legal profession.
Right now, Linda, we're going to commit right now.
Okay.
Yeah, we're committing. We have to do this because we promised and we do it. So
I know we did, and we actually brainstormed on it. So it's not like we didn't.
Oh,
I believe you.
Yeah, I promise you.
But if you can do this, it will take some time to build up. but it will pay off in so many spades because again, it's all of a sudden then the leads just start flowing in, right?
Mhm.
You don't have to even go looking for it. It just comes to you. And if you're not going to be somebody like me, and I get a lot of people aren't going to be like me in that you're going to produce, 1,000 YouTube videos, but you can still find other people's content that's relevant for the legal profession and useful. And if you get it, that's what John did. John told me the day I met him practically. He's like, I'm not somebody who's going to create content, but I know how to network with people and find other people's good content. And I curate that and I share that. And because I'm looking at lots of different sources and curating them in a single feed of my own, he said, yes, people could go follow those sources, or they could just follow me and they're getting it all from one source. And they're getting a nice variety of useful information. Some of it you may not be interested in, some of it you are, and so you just kind of take what you need, leave what you don't. But the point is, you don't have to be a content creator to build a following in social media. You can be sharing somebody else's content that you think is useful. Just don't share somebody else's accounting content because you're hoping they're going to come to you for the accounting stuff. You share content about the legal profession that would be of interest, but accounting content, that part you probably do at some point need to write some of your own, right? Even if it's just simple stuff. I was telling Sarah and Linda before we started that I just started doing I'm calling it the QuickBooks Online Index, where it's very, very short, very pointed tutorials like how to add a customer in QuickBooks Online, how to add an account in QuickBooks Online. I can guarantee you doing these little 5-minute videos is going to take me no time to do because I can do them in my sleep, but it's going to generate a ton of traffic to my YouTube channel. It's what will take my YouTube channel from the current 25,000 subscribers to I'll catch up with Hector, who I believe is close to 100,000 subscribers now.
I know what he does, but if anybody here doesn't feel like their bookkeeping skills, or anybody watching in the future doesn't feel like their bookkeeping skills are just quite there yet, Seth has a bulletproof program, and Sarah and I both highly recommend because we've learned from Seth for over the years. So we'll put a link in the video about that as well, and then 97 and up too, because that's an amazing group of really amazing people, right, Sarah?
It's huge too. It's grown so much, and it's such a wealth of knowledge and things that you didn't even think were important, relevant to you, and then boom, next week you get the question from the client, or you're hit with the same scenario or something of the like, and you're like, wait a minute, this was just discussed. Amazing. So it's wonderful. There's no harm in being a part of many different communities, especially one that's specific to the niche that you're trying to do, as well as a general bucket too. It's really awesome. So as you can tell.
Thank you for coming and sharing your time and being our Pop-Tart.
It's awesome.
Don't call me a Pop-Tart, then Joanne's going to want you to throw me away.
No. Oh goodness.
Appreciate your time for sure. And
Thank you for having me.
we need to get into 97 and up once in a while, Sarah. You keep booking these meetings.
No meetings on Tuesday or Thursday at 11 a.m.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. Well, thank you. And everyone, enjoy your weekend. It's again a pleasure to see you all. And
Nice to meet you. Those of you I hadn't met before.
yeah,
Well,
Nice to see you again, those of you I have.
awesome. All right. Take
Bye.
care, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.
Good weekend.